Okay, this time I have a review for ScreenFlow, a screen recorder and screen caption program available for Windows and Mac. This is the Mac version. It's version 5.0.1, which is the latest version at the time of making this review. Here in the center of the screen we have a normal preview window, so you can see what you're doing. Then we have a toolbox over to the right. And down at the bottom we have our timeline where you can have audio, video, and titles. This button here is your crop button to the left of the toolbar. Rewind, play, fast forward, pause, and your how long the playback is or what position you're in on the timeline. Let's just select something like a video. You can see you've got your sort of transform handles here. We can go over to the right here and have a look. We're under text at a moment and there is no text. We didn't select a title. So let's go to the first tab. Here is our video tab. We can scale the video up or down. We can reposition it X, Y, and Z coordinates. We can select the transparency. We can do cropping from here as well. Now, if we could add a reflection or a shadow. Now this you're not going to see really very well because it's a whole video, so any reflection or shadow has got to be off the screen. But say we put another little small video here, say a picture-in-picture, we could apply a reflection or a shadow to it and you'd notice it and it would look quite sharp. And we have color controls. We have saturation, brightness, and contrast, and the basic sliders in percentage. We can then apply video filters. Here we have a white point adjust filter. We can tick this button here and apply some of the built-in ones such as color effects, color adjustments, stylize, blur, and distortion. These are built-in effects that come with the program. We can go here and click action. And it says adding an action to clip enables you to modify the properties of your video or screen recording over a period of time. So basically it's applying in a way an animation. You can take it from take the term from perhaps another program such as Final Cut. It would be keyframing. You're keyframing the adjustment or the effect over a period of time. Now we can go over to our audio tab. Here we can raise or lower the volume. If the volume isn't loud enough, it's too quiet, we can raise it here, or if it's blaring, we can turn it down a little. And we have ducking, we have mute audio, we have smooth the volume levels, we have mix input to mono. We have an effect, so you can apply a presence. You can apply, say, a large hall, band pass, or small room with an equalizer. And you can apply how much you want that effect to show through. Do you want it just do you want just a very subtle effect, or do you want a real full effect, such as say 100%? We have a filter to actually remove background noise using built-in background remover here in the program. And you can apply the amount, such as 80%, 10%. Now, a good thing about this program, unlike a lot of screen recorders, you have audio filters. This is basically your audio units or your VST plugins. Let me show you. You can apply, say, Acorn Digital's noise restoration program to do denoising, things like that, or Zeotope's Nectar Elements, or whatever, as long as you know these are third-party plugins that you'd have installed, or Apple's built-in plugins that come built into the operating system. The only couple of problems I have found with this is, let's just apply one. Okay, we have Voxengo's Gliss EQ, which I've reviewed previously here. Now, that's quite good. You have some sliders you can adjust, such as the oversample, the gain, various options here from within the program, but they're not always labeled very clearly. So it would be nice to, say, double click on it and open up its native interface like you can in audio editors, especially if you want to do work with EQs. Now let me show you an example here. Let's look at Wave Arts Dialogue, a program to enhance and clean up your voiceovers and dialogue. Let's add it. Now this one doesn't work correctly. There is no drop downs, there is no sliders whatsoever for this one, which may not be the fault of ScreenFlow, but it may be a problem in the plugin itself. But it does work in Final Cut Pro and it does work in audio editors. So I can't actually use it. And I would like to, this is one I would particularly like to be able to double click and open its native interface. Now let me show you an example. Now in an audio editor such as Amadeus Pro, I can go here and select dialogue. And this is the native UI for that plugin. This I can't get to from within ScreenFlow. Now I know you could say this isn't a full audio editor, it's ScreenFlow, it's a screen capture program. Well, in Final Cut Pro 10, you can apply audio units and plugins, and they work to begin with in a similar way to ScreenFlow. You get just the basic sliders that are not always clear, but then there's a little box next to the title of the plugin you can click and it brings up the native dialogue instead. So it'd be good if you could do that in ScreenFlow as well. Okay, back into ScreenFlow. Let's remove that for now. Let's go to the next tab. Now the next tab is simply called Screen Recording. This is where, if you don't want your cursor to be shown, you can untick Show Mouse Pointer. We can also do pointer zoom and adjust it from a slider in percentage. We can also do a click effect. So if the cursor is clicked, do we want it to look like a radar, invert, or none? Do we want no click effect? I would like to see more than just really radar. I'd like to see a few additional effects here. Pointer, we have default, circle light, circle dark, square, or choose your own image. That's a really neat idea that you can choose your own cursor image. Although I would perhaps like to see a few presets here built in, a bit more choice in the actual application, but it's still, that is quite a unique feature. We then have sound on click. So basically, every time you click the mouse in your recording, do you want it to actually make a noise? Do you want feedback? Do you want it to go click or not? And I would recommend having it off by default. That is off by default, and I'd recommend you keep it off. It can get a little annoying. But then again, there is volume for it, unlike some programs. So you could try having it on and having the volume at a very low setting, such as maybe even 5 or 10%, and see how it sounds. You can use your own click sound effect, so you can use your own audio file for the style of the click. Keyboard, do you want to use keystrokes? Well, if you're doing something like a tutorial on YouTube, I'd recommend you have keystrokes on, and I would probably have show all keys, although you can limit it to only the modifier keys, such as the Windows key on Windows, or the Control key, or on Mac like the Alt or Command key, whatever. And you can choose the height and position for it. And you can click this and customize it even further. You can have the font change, you can select your own font, you can do the background color, the outline color, the stroke and corner roundness. This is really good because a lot of programs I've seen, a lot of screen capture programs I've seen, you can enable keystrokes, but there's no real customization over its appearance, so that is very good. We then have call out, and here you can adjust your settings for your call out. You can highlight the cursor, highlight the foreground window, highlight freehand, transparency, blur the background, zoom, border, outline, shadow, feather, roundness, and build. So you can have a transition sort of effect in and out. We then have a touch callout. We then have annotations, which is a really handy feature. So you can say, select this one, which is an actual arrow, and point out something. So if you're doing a tutorial on YouTube, you can say, draw a arrow pointing at the button that you're talking about, or the feature you're talking about, whatever. You can change the color. By default it's a dark blue. You can change it to yellow, green, whatever. You can then apply a shadow and outline to that as well, and adjust the thickness. We then have a very necessary feature in all video editors or screen capture programs, your text. So you can apply your title or captions. From here, once you've added one using this, you would then select your font size, alignment, the fill, color, an outline if you want one, and a backdrop if you want one or not. And lastly, we have your file browser, your media library, whatever you want to call it. It's basically the same type of idea as a media library that would be found in a program such as iPhoto or iMovie. You can add media from here or add a new recording. In preferences, we can get to licenses, so you can add your license once you bought the program. Under General, we have settings such as, do you want to show the ScreenFlow options in the menu bar up here or not? Do you want to show a countdown before you start recording, such as 3 seconds, 5 seconds, or whatever you want there? Do you want the ScreenFlow program to start in your menu bar every time you boot up? I wouldn't really need that, so I leave it off, but it's up to you. Then there's auto update to check for updates every time the program is launched. You can then apply some very basic shortcut keys. So by default you have Command Shift 2 to start recording. You don't have one by default for whatever reason, but you can apply your own shortcut to pause the recording if you need to quickly pause, which is very handy, and I'll probably set one up later. And you can do the same for adding a marker. Timeline. This is your timeline down here, like you'd have in any video editor. You can adjust some settings here, such as, do you want to use SMPTE timecode instead of the seconds? Do you want to hide the action menu overlay over clips? Do you want to show stereo audio waveforms or not? What do you want the default transitions to be, such as cross dissolve? I'd probably leave it as that. Default track height, regular, I'd probably leave it on that, but you can have small, high, and you've got some default durations here, such as the default for an annotation clip is 5 seconds, the default for a call out is 4 seconds, the default for a transition is 1 second, and you can customize each of those to your liking. That's really good. It's very customizable. You don't really see that in many programs. I think that's really good. And you have, lastly, an advanced tab. So for video magnification, do you want it to be smooth or sharp? For screen recording compression, do you want it adaptive or lossless? Computer audio, this is where you'd install your audio driver that it requires to record system audio. So say you record in, I don't know, maybe a review or tutorial of a media player, such as Wondershare player or QuickTime player, and you wanted to give a quick example and you loaded a trailer or a little short piece of music, you can then have that recorded as well in your screen recording instead of just no sound when you hit play, and it does work. You can change capture scratch disk. This is something you'll perhaps be familiar with if you know Final Cut Pro. This is so basically all your sort of cache files and temporary files will go on a different disk if you want. From Mark menu, you have Mark and in point and out point, add a marker to clip, and a few other settings, or you can go to a particular marker or a project start or project end. From insert, this is where you can actually insert a text box if you want, which is very, very handy. You can attach an annotation clip, a speech clip, or choose, say, a file from your hard drive. You can change fonts from here, and action is so you can add an action. Now, action, if you remember, is basically, in a way, it's basically just your keyframing, which is not something I do a lot in screen capture programs, but I can see that it could be useful, especially if you're doing a lot of this type of stuff. So you can add a video action, audio action, a screen recording action, a call out, touch call out from here, or you can go to add a snapback action, templates such as add an iOS touch feature, rotation, single tap, swipe left, swipe right, add an iPad action for 4-finger swipe left, things like that. This would be if you're reviewing or doing a tutorial for an iOS device program, because this program can record from an iOS device. Then you have some curve types at the bottom as well, such as ease in and out, none, or default. Now let's go to the file menu and see what we have under this. We have your basic new and open. We have add an additional recording, close, save, duplicate, rename, move to, document settings, save a still frame, publish to, and you can publish to YouTube, Vimeo, Google Drive, Dropbox, Facebook, or Wisteria, or whatever that is. I haven't actually heard of that till recently. You can export your video file from here. Let's have a look at document settings. This is very standard. You can either select a preset for your resolution, such as 1080p HD, 720, or various iOS captures. Or you can manually type in a width and height yourself. From export, we have what is the file name, where do you want it to save to? Do you want to select a preset? So do you want high quality web, low quality web? This would be for if you are uploading directly to the web, such as for YouTube or your website. You can then select an iOS app preview, iPad, so you got to watch it or send it to people's iPads and iPhones. You can mostly watch it on your Apple TV box or not, or your iPod. There's also lossless ProRes with alpha, which is transparency, or lossless audio only, so do you just want to export the audio at very high quality. And then once you make changes, you can actually make it the default setting. So I've selected web high here and I have customized it. So you can go to customize, and this is where you can select to not export your audio or video. So if you only wanted audio, you can untick this, or if you just wanted video, you can untick the audio here. You can select your frames per second, you can select your duration, you can select your data rate in kilobits, you can select a profile such as main, baseline, or automatic. You can select keyframe rate, automatic or fixed, so every however many frames you set it to. For audio, you can select a sample rate of 44.1 kilohertz, or you can select 48 here. So basically that's 44.1 is CD quality, 48 is DVD and Blu-ray quality audio. Then select the data rate there, and you can select if it's mono or stereo. Under manage, this is where you can copy and remove, add and delete your presets of your own. You can scale 100%, so do you want the entire whole thing exported, the full resolution, or do you want to scale it down to smaller size, or do you want to scale not in percentage but to a custom size, and do you want to add motion blur? And if you have markers, do you want to add chapter tracks based on the markers that you've inserted into your project? Okay, from file, let's go to new. From new, we can see what's new or get to help from here. This is ScreenFlow 5, as I mentioned before. We can straight away do a new recording. And do we want to record desktop from? And then if you have more than one monitor, you can select it there. If you only have the one monitor, that's all your choice is going to be. Do you want to record a screen from an iOS device, such as an iPod Touch, an iPhone, or an iPad? Well, this is grayed out because I don't have an iPad or whatever plugged into my computer. This is a new feature compatible with 10.10 Yosemite and iOS 8. If you have the latest version of Mac, 10.10, and the latest version of iOS on your device, iOS 8, you can, by tethering it to your computer, you can't do it wirelessly, but if you plug in the Lightning or 30-pin connector to the iOS device and the USB into your computer, you'll be able to select it from here, and you'll be able to record your iOS device's screen. You can record your face if you want, or whatever, from a webcam at the same time. As you see in some videos, you could have, say, a box down here on your top of your screen recording, showing your face and things like that, whatever. What do you want to record the audio from? So we can select our USB microphone here. We can then select to record system audio or not. If you don't need to, you can untick it. If you want to record your computer audio at the same time as well as your microphone audio, you can. If we tick this little box here, we can say, what is our frame rate? Is it 30, 15, 1, or automatic? I'm not sure why there is no 60 frames per second, as I have seen in other screen recorders 60 frames per second, which would be good if you're, say, recording from a video game. So I would like to see 60 FPS option added here, and we can stop recording after a certain amount of time, such as 10 minutes, and we can set a timer from here. Or we can just go here and hit the red button, hit the red dot, and go. Or we can create a new document without necessarily having to actually record first. We can set up a new project, then start recording later. And recent documents here. So what do I think of ScreenFlow 5 for Mac? It is a really good screen recorder. It's very full featured. You can do anything you want, anything you can think of, you can do it. You not only can record like most programs and record your mic and system audio, you can also record your webcam, which not every screen recorder supports, but I must admit a lot do, but not all do. And unlike a lot of screen recorders, you can also edit from within ScreenFlow, so you can chop up your video, you can add titles, you can add plugins, you can add annotations, you can add say a arrow pointing at things, you can add various things, you can adjust the audio, you can adjust the audio and the video separately. So it's very much a full-featured video editor as well as a screen capture program. You can also record from an iOS device as long as you have iOS 8 and the latest version of OS 10 installed. Admittedly, you can, if you have the latest 10.10 OS 10, you can actually do it from QuickTime Player X. However, of course, you won't get all of the editing ability, so you'd have to record it with that, save it, and edit it in another program. So you can do it all from within this one program now. My suggestions are 60 frames per second, because it doesn't seem like it supports it. I'd like 60 frames per second support. I would like audio filters to support their native interfaces. And that is about it. Native interface support for audio filters and 60 frames a second recording. Otherwise, this is the most full-featured screen capture and recorder I ever used so far, and I have tried quite a few. So I recommend you go to their website and download a free trial and see what you think for yourself. Thanks for watching. Please like and share this video, and if you could do me a huge favour and subscribe, as it will help me out a lot and will only take just a few seconds. Thanks.